Well, if you don't have to drive, don't.
Right.
I really want to give a shout out to the road crews out there. They've actually, in my opinion, they've done a really good job. I know they can't be everywhere, but the roads on the way in, they hit those pretty hard a couple times last night. I drove up real late last night. I drove up to Hoodsport and back just to see what that 101 was, and they hadn't graded that yet. And it was pretty rough shape. Fortunately, there was just a few vehicles out. And this morning it didn't look too bad, but it compacts snow and ice. It gets tougher as we move along.
And a long-time good friend of this station and volunteer for you guys, Troy Jasmine's out and about. He's been updating us when he is in a safe location, updating us on various things, including how many days until Christmas.
I don't know. He's probably tracking Santa Claus, knowing
Yes,
Troy.
right
That's all he
now.
cares
Yeah,
about
yes.
is how many days it is till Christmas.
All right. So, additionally, any further advice for folks? You said don't get out there if you don't have to, but if you do, we talked with Chief Sperling last week on some of the conditions over Snoqualmie Pass.
It's all the same things that we say every year, and every news channel comes out, and every trooper will tell you the same thing. It helps to slow down.
Yeah.
And increase your following distance, and not get too antsy on the brakes right away. Steer out of things rather than, because as soon as those brakes start locking up, you're in trouble. You don't have anything going on then.
There's a lot of cars I'm seeing on the different WSDOT traffic cameras being stuck in and stuck around. People are having a hard time there. So we had unfortunately had to postpone our polar plunge Saturday.
Yeah, I know there was some people that wanted to make that a go, and I got up early and drove out well before that event and took a look at it. And, as I communicated with you by texting, that when you're out there trying to promote public safety, it's kind of counterproductive to ask people to come out to something that could be, putting their safety at risk.
Sure.
And we just didn't feel like, it sounds good maybe when you're down by the South Shore and there's not as much snow, but getting down there, going down the hill, is a whole different situation.
Well, that Dalby Road is just it's a real
it's
big
steep,
hill.
and we had a tree down across both lanes of the South Shore at one point, and I got out there and took a look. I sent some pictures out. I think Troy posted those. The summertime chairs up on the beach covered with snow, and the docks were slick, and it just isn't worth the safety factor.
Well, listen, I told
you guys missed me. I took the plunge. I was waiting for you guys.
I
was there.
I got a note from Dale. Him and Riley or Coco were out there too, so maybe you guys all jumped together. And
yeah, that was it.
the question is, if nobody watched you jump, did you still jump like a tree falling?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, then that means you can come out and jump with us later, because we that's perfect. I was hoping Spencer would say he was all in. At some point, we'll go out and do something like that. But I want to thank all those people that, as we talked, Jeff, on the phone yesterday, most of the contributions for what we make were already in. Nobody was not exactly trying to avoid the jump, but it was a matter of, the risk isn't worth that.
No. And we will do everything we can to work with the Hood County Lions and all emergency services involved with that to promote and make sure everyone's aware of the updated change. And maybe it'll be a little warmer the next time.
And the other issue that sometimes you don't think of when people want you involved is there's other people that make that happen, like the staff at Alderbrook that would have had to come in to help out. It puts all them at risk too. So there's a lot that's kind of far-reaching when you have to. It
does make a lot of sense. People do come from all over, especially when it comes to helping and honoring and doing what they can for emergency services. So other news to pass along quickly. We've got a couple minutes here as we've just been doing delays and closures. I know something that we've been talking about a lot over the last couple of years, jail numbers and things like that. You got some updated information?
Yeah,
I
told you that Chief Hansen was working out a way that we could get these immediately out each month and actual numbers, and so I brought the listings down. Chief had some other stuff today, or I had him actually speak to this, but I'll read them off for you. We have there's different types of capacity designations for jails, and there's design capacity for that jail, 68 people, and the rated capacity of the absolute maximum that we can have in there is 93, but you can't count the people and mattresses on the floors and things like that. So then you go into operational capacity is what operational functional is what we say, well, that's about what it should be to safely run that jail. And so that number is 80 inmates. So the average daily population for the month of January was 77.34. The average length of stay for inmates over the last 12 months is 13 days and 7 hours. Average number of inmates on the floor is 2.32. Average in the holding cells is 4. Number of inmates that we booked this month was 145. The number of inmates released is 160. Now listen to these numbers. This is where I continue to be with my concern. The active number of warrants that are out there for people from Mason County, 5,006. It's 5,006 people that should have been in there that have warrants issued for their arrest. Additional people, now this is the other one. I know Chief Moody spoke to this, and this is what's bothersome for us in law enforcement. The number of additional people who would have been incarcerated if we had room, 165 month. That was this month, 165. Last month it was like 215 or 225 people that should have been booked into jail that we could not. Alternative is sentencing, we have 7.8 people in that. Electronic home monitoring, there's 28 there. Our work release program has 1.29 when you divide that. And the total number of inmates we carry in custody this month was 115.
So let's say that we snap our fingers and everybody comes to a determination that a new jail is needed. We're not going to have one tomorrow. It'll take a while to do this. So until then, what are some of the things that you're trying to communicate or facilitate between us, between maybe Nisqually or different correction centers around the area that could possibly take in? And then, of course, you got to deal with the weather conditions now and the safety of your deputies and things like that. So, we're not going to be able to get a jail tomorrow. But if you're looking at lowering some of those numbers, what can we be doing in the short term?
If you look at what the state law is, if you can't hold those people, you're supposed to be contracting out with somebody else. And as you know, the commission cut those contracts. So we don't have, and now to get those back, we had a contract with Lewis County. Now they're full. Everybody else has filled it. So overflow capacity, most of them we have to go in and check with the court to see who they can release, who they can early release in order to put somebody else in. It's real challenging for us, and it costs money. And that was the reason that the money was taken away. We couldn't outsource. Now we've got a very minimal amount of money that we've been given for a dire emergency that will last. I've talked to Kevin, depending on how many people you have out there, it's going to last maybe a month or two.
Sure.
So it's just moving people in and moving people out. We work with the courts as best we can with the judges. And again, we have all those different types of jail booking restrictions that we have on our own people that we can't bring them in under certain circumstances.
Are you still doing tours? I mean, maybe not tomorrow because of the weather.
Yeah, on Tuesdays, and we're going to be meeting with another local group wants to come in and look at these numbers and walk through one of our, I guess you call them a service club group. We'll be meeting with them next week. They want to research this some more because they've got deep concerns as to why this isn't working.
Sure. Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury here this morning. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
And we'll get that polar plunge rescheduled. We'll be out there before too long.
And Spencer will be with us.
And that's right. Spencer will
Well, there's an opening in July. I think we can.
Well, I'll join at that point.
The weather would still
at the pool with his water wings on.
Right.
It would be polar somewhere in the world.
That's true. Down in Antarctica, perhaps. All right. Thank you, sir. Good to see you.